Here we go again, everybody. We are looking at a very unbalanced position where white is a rook up here. The king cannot move anywhere, and black only has pawns. But these two pawns connected and passed pawns are very, very dangerous. So we have to look at this with a very cautious mind as white to see how we can win this. Well, I think that's all you need to know now. It's of course white to start, and now you can pause the video and see if you can find out how white wins this position from here. Go ahead. Okay, welcome back. So, how are we going to stop these pawns? Well, the only direct move that prevents them from advancing now is rook to f1. If this moves, we will just grab the f pawn and the g pawn will fall, and if this moves, we will just grab it. But this is not the solution, because when we move our rook like this away from the b file, that frees up the black king, and now we cannot really do anything. We cannot move this rook, and we will just have to sit and wait for the black king to come down and support his pawns like this, and then start advancing them. And this is really losing for white. So we cannot play defensive like that. We have to be much more aggressive. Another interesting move to look at is king to c7. Trying to set up some sort of checkmate here. Let's see if black moves his pawn to f2. We can perhaps go up to b8 and threaten the checkmate. But we are not getting any further after this. Doesn't threaten anything. We will check. He will go back. If it goes to a8, that is losing, because then we will go here and then grab here. But black will just go back and forward to a6 and a7 all the time, and we cannot come any further. And this is, of course, the same if we, instead of starting with rook b8, start with a check. It will be the same, and we cannot find any checkmate after this. So this is just a draw. But we want to win. And okay, we cannot really move our rook anywhere. We doesn't help us. We have these two pawns to look out for. Now, the key to solve this one is this pawn. If this pawn wasn't here, let's say it's just gone, then we could immediately play rook e1 or h1 and threaten to come to the 6th rank with a checkmate, something like this. And this is the key. We need to get this one out of the picture. And in order to do that, we need to use our pawns here to really force black to move this pawn. Okay, so how do we do it? Well, let's look at this. We can try to move this pawn, perhaps to d3 or d4. Let's look at what happens if it goes to d3. If it tries to protect it like this, well, then we just pass on, and we are setting up a checkmate here or here, which cannot be guarded by black. So that's a very bad move for black. If he grabs it, that's also bad, because we're not going to take it back. We're going to play c4, allowing one pawn to move, c5. Now we are threatening checkmate up here, which means black is forced to take this. And then we just go to h1, and we will have a checkmate here in the next move. Or black can delay it once by getting a queen, something like this. We can take it, but we can also do like this, check and checkmate. So, but still, d3 is not the correct move. If he plays c3, he stops this, and he will not move this pawn at all. We can try to attack this pawn by grabbing it and then get a checkmate, but we are just too slow. If we do something like this now, the king comes to b6, we're not threatening a checkmate, and we cannot stop this pawn. Very, very bad. And we don't have any other options here, really, other than to go back to b1. Okay, so what about playing directly to d4? This is also interesting. If he grabs en passant, it will be the same variation. We go to c4, and we threaten to push here, and we will get rid of this pawn, and we will win. And if we have the pawn already on d4 and they place c3, this is also winning for white for the same reasons. We go attack this pawn, we threaten the checkmate, the king comes to b6, but now we have gained the tempo and we play d5, and he cannot stop the checkmate on c6 next time. So this is still not the right solution, because after we start with d4, he cannot grab it, he cannot pass to c3, but at the same time he doesn't have to. Our mission was to get rid of this pawn, and d4 move is really not helping. So he will just ignore this and instead play f2. And this doesn't really help. We don't threaten anything. He will play g3. We will try perhaps to get some checkmate up here like this, but this is just too slow. Queen comes, and even though we threaten checkmate, now we start checking for black, and this is not winning. So back to the start. What are we doing? Well, here comes the right solution. We have to stop this pawn first by playing c3, not allowing him to pass to d3, and we are still forcing him to handle our pawn when it comes. Now black will play f2 or g3, doesn't really matter, it will be the same variation. Let's look at f2 because it at least stops our rook from coming to e1. Now we play d3. We cannot go 2 steps, then he will keep on ignoring us. We have to play d3 and attack this pawn. If he ignores it like this, we will just grab the pawn, allowing him to get both his pawn to the second rank. But now we are threatening checkmate, and if he takes this one, well, then we can play the rook to d1 is the empty row here. And even though he will be allowed to promote, we have a checkmate up here. Great, huh? So let's look at this again. That is what happens if he ignores it. If he plays d5 to protect his pawn, well, then we have our mission accomplished. We wanted to get rid of this pawn, and we did. So now our pawns have done what they need to do. We play rook to h1, threaten the checkmate up here. Black king can come closer, but it doesn't matter. We still get a check. Comes down, and we finish off with a beautiful rook pawn checkmate like this in the middle of the board. Very, very nice. Okay. So he cannot take it, and he cannot. He couldn't ignore it, and he cannot play d5. What if he takes it? Well, then it transforms to the same variation we looked at before. Now we push our c pawn, which is getting important. He can get another pawn down. Perhaps this one doesn't really matter. We threaten checkmate. If he promotes anything, doesn't help. We're going to checkmate anyway. And if he grabs the pawn, we get a free little row here on the h file, and we will checkmate in the next move, or perhaps allow him to put one piece in between, and then we grab it with a checkmate. So from the starting position, this subtle little move c3 is the one that wins this for white, and it's not easy to find, I know that. So this was a really tough challenge. I hope you managed to solve it all the way. Otherwise, you can come back tomorrow for something perhaps more simple, or maybe even harder. We'll see what we'll have up our sleeves for tomorrow. See you then. Bye bye.